This is the Rebound Tampa Bay podcast. I'm James Tully. Today we're rebounding by helping you find your next job. And what I did is I pulled clips from a recent Facebook Live I hosted on the ABC Action News Facebook page with a career coach. And we took questions from anybody watching in the chat box there. They typed them in and we passed them right along to our expert here. And I think you're going to find a lot of the information, the tips that she passes along, very helpful in getting you back into the job market if you've recently lost your job and are looking for work. Here we go. I want to welcome in right now Catherine Patterson. She is a career coach. Look, here's a question. You ever wonder why you send out so many resumes and never get a response of any kind? Well, the answer I think Catherine might be able to help us with today. You have a wealth of experience in the tech industry, Catherine. So you bring a lot of that. You tell me you've led huge groups, you've hired, you've trained, you've done all these things in the real world. You want to try and bring that help to people as they get themselves back up on their feet.
Yeah, that's right. So I've actually gone through a few recessions, and not as bad as this one. This is pretty bad. But I went through the dot-com bust and then the subprime mortgage crisis. And what I've noticed is I've gone through so many bad economic crises over the past 2 decades, 25 years, and I've thought about this over and over. And what I found is this: number one, ATS. A lot of people don't know this, applicant tracking systems. Most resumes are not ATS friendly. So what that means is that 90% of companies out there, they are using, or the Fortune 500s, they use this recruiting software. And 40% of all companies use this. This means that your resume, your perfect resume, is not getting through, okay? So only 2% of candidates out there are actually getting interviewed. So this is why callbacks aren't happening, okay? So this is how you get your resume through the bots. And, part of it is the algorithms, okay? And I'm gonna give you guys, I'm really big on stats here. So I've got this.
I love stats too, despite probably not taking a single math course in college. I'm all about it. Hey, Catherine, I want to talk a little bit more about you. We found you on TikTok.
Yes.
So you are, you told me before we went live here, you're like, listen, I have to tell you, I didn't think that this would catch on working through TikTok, but you totally have kind of taken a medium that's not really known for this stuff. I mean, most people do what on TikTok? They dance, right? Is that the thing? I'm getting a little old here for TikTok.
Yeah, me too.
Right? But you're like, my stuff it's hitting. It's catching people's attention and it's hitting a certain demographic. I find that very, very fascinating. That's how you've kind of built up things.
Yeah, it was really bizarre. I just kind of, one day a friend of mine was talking about how they were struggling to get a call back with the resume. And I thought, this, might be something to do on TikTok. So I did a TikTok tip. My first one is lackluster, but the second one, I did this copy and paste tip. I'd done this for years. And what it is basically you take 50 to 90% of the job listing. And believe me, this is going to be very controversial. It flies against everything out there on the internet, on everything you've ever heard. You take 50 to 90% of a job listing, like the job qualifications, you copy and paste it, put it into your resume. Very small print, right? And you basically hide it in your resume. And the reason we do this, and this is going to be very controversial, but it's because you want to make sure that your resume gets through to pass the algorithm. So part of it is that there's a human element. Anything that has to do with tech, when you can have machines that can build a furniture, build a car, but when it comes to human management, hiring, leadership, tech and leadership are human elements. It just doesn't match up. So that's why I always encourage people, you got to make it easy for the algorithm to see you, to find you.
All right, we keep using this word algorithm. I'm going to make sure everybody understands what exactly that is. I can tell you, as somebody who tries to have a presence on social media, on
Yeah.
Facebook and Twitter and everything, you are battling against robots, if you will, like an
Yeah.
automated system that if your content doesn't appeal to certain things or hit certain categories,
Yes.
you're going to get shuffled to the bottom. And you're saying the same
Right.
thing happens with resumes and applications.
Yes, that's what happens. So, like, let's say your resume, right, has like pictures on it. It has like all these, colors on it. The font's weird, something like that, right? It's really hard for a recruiting software to, scan your resume and to understand what is it's on it, right? Even as something as mundane, and a lot of people do this. They try to use words that sound very like professional, right? They'll throw in non-industry standard words.
Like proficient. Like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
proficient in this.
right.
Adequate in this,
Yeah,
right?
they'll try to sound really intelligent, right? They'll stuff all these things in there instead of using really standard things, right? So that's going to throw off an algorithm. It's going to throw off the resume scanning, and then your resume gets chucked out. That's part of that 70% that gets immediately rejected.
Okay, Catherine, got you. So how do we make our resume more appealing? How do we get into those algorithms and how do we make it pop? What are we trying to do here?
Make it boring. Make it plain. Make
Wow.
it super simple. No pictures, no graphics, no emojis, no colors, no fonts, no tables, no nothing. It goes against everything you think of. You think, I'm going to make my resume stand out. Nope. Don't do it. Do not make your resume stand out in that way. Make it as plain and simple as possible.
Give me some examples.
An example, I mean, it says, I actually had it over here, but you got to make it like black and white, plain, like just your name, your full name, and then just bullets. That's it. How long you've been at work, like, plain language, like nothing, like just as plain as you can make it. I mean, it's as simple as that, like a text file. That's it. And another thing too that people forget is like your file name. Don't call it resume.doc. Put your name in it. Put the title in it. I've seen that so often. I could probably, if I had a penny for every time I've seen resume.doc, I could retire like 3 months ago.
Cynthia Johnson here has a really interesting comment. She says, as an older worker, she puts in parentheses 55, it's becoming tough with my college degree to find even an entry-level job. Right. Of course, we know what's going on in the world right now. We know there's a lot of people out of work. A lot of older Americans are out of work as well. Mm-hmm. Any tips there?
Yeah. Ageism is an issue. I mean, I'm 42, and I feel like I'm feeling a little bit of that as well. Part of it is this. Job hopping. This is another thing that flies against what's out there. They say, don't job hop. I say the opposite. Diversification is a true tactic. I have diversified my skills over the past 25 years. That's a good thing. Why wouldn't you diversify your skill set? Just like you diversify your stocks, your financial portfolio, you should do the same with your career. Definitely to stay, prevent, any kind of issues with your resume too. This is what we do. Every 2 to 3 years, even 1 to 2 years is fine. I've never had a problem looking at a resume and seeing job hopping as a problem. That's not a big deal. Anything under a year would be a red flag for me, but after 2 to 3 years, that's no big deal. Job hopping to diversify your skills is an excellent thing. Companies do it all the time. They don't stick with one customer. They diversify their customer portfolio as well.
What else? What are some other big don'ts when it comes to applying for a job and setting yourself up?
So other don'ts in the interview, for example, never be late, never miss it. Definitely don't miss it. Don't lie. Instead, just say, I don't know. I don't know, but here's what I think the answer might be. Right. And then try not to have unsolicited direct messaging with the hiring manager. unless it's like a conglomerate and you just can't find them, right? They wouldn't find you unless you direct message them. That's a big no-no. And here's a no, but a don't, but I just wouldn't encourage it or move on. It's all about quantity. In job hunting, it's always about quantity, not quality per se. It's a numbers game. A lot of people get hung up on why aren't they calling me? Just move on.
Her name's Catherine Patterson. She's a career coach joining us here live. Thanks a lot for all of your questions. I had this one here from Lynn Grant just popped up. There's another one I want to get to. Lynn asks, it seems companies do not respond yay or nay to you. So many jobs out there, but you don't get a response back once you've applied. That's to be expected, correct? More times than not, you're just not going to hear back.
Yeah. Well, it's also because your resume may not have gotten through. Like I said, past the bots, you're never going to get a response. That's another thing. And they're inundated. We're in a global job market. There's remote jobs out there. There's so many remote jobs. So these companies are never going to have the time. There's about every company now, they'll have like 1 or 2 recruiters, and then they get inundated with resumes. How do you expect them to actually respond? It's not going to happen.
Something else, Catherine, too, a lot of companies ask you not to call them, not to follow up.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad used to say all the time, squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah.
Sometimes, though, that squeaky wheel can get replaced, right? So you have to be careful. That can hurt you more than help you in a lot of cases. Is that true?
Definitely true. I have never really I've never liked it myself. Some people might like it. I think that's a very small percentage, to be honest, because anybody good is going to be busy, right? I've always been super busy. Every recruiter is super busy. Following up is not a good thing. I just don't see it as a good thing, to be honest with you. I don't recommend it.
Kim McHenry just kind of throws this out there. Working with temp agencies is a good idea, she says. I am doing that and working full time. Good foot in the door to get hired. What are your thoughts on going to temp agencies?
Temp agencies are great for just getting to keeping the lights on, but to actually move up the ladder to get a lot of pay, it's not really the way to go. I would put destiny in my own hands. I used to rely on recruiters to just call me up, and I thought that was a great idea until light bulb. I was like, wait a second, that's like asking somebody else to do the work for me. The way to get a lot of money, if you're in a position of power, you have to go find it. That's always the way. Like if you're doing the shopping, how are you going to get more money? You have to do the work. Relying on somebody else to find the deals, that's not going to do you any good.
So let's talk about the do's, things you got to make sure that you are doing. You got into it a little bit when it comes to the interview process because, God willing, hopefully that's going to happen for you. If you do have the right type of resume, you're going to get a chance to sit down in front of somebody, or in this case, and this seems like in this day and age, you might be doing it virtually, but you're going to get an opportunity to sell yourself. And right. I've always been told all you need is one person to give you the chance. It's really all you need, one person to believe in you and give you an opportunity. So when you do get that chance, and whether it's virtually or face-to-face from a safe distance, what are your tips?
Number 1, know your audience. Number 2, you got to ask questions at the start and the end. And number 3, first impressions count. So the first one, when I say know your audience, you got to ask the recruiter who's going to be there. Not even kidding. You got to ask for their full names and their titles. Why? Because you want to socially stalk them, figure out what they're about. Ask how much decision-making power do they have. So if they're going to have like 60% decision-making power or 20%, that's going to influence how you're going to cater your answers, right? So if they're big into maybe, sports or whatever it is, or if they're politically charged or anything, you're going to avoid certain, answers, right? And then number 2, the questions, right? One of the questions that I love to ask at the beginning of an interview is what are your top 3 what are the top 3 qualities of your star performers? Why? Because that will kind of carve out how your answers will be. It'll frame your answers. So let's say they're top performer, the qualities are about time management. Maybe you'll frame your answers around the performance of time. Okay. And then at the end, what you want to ask them is about how you will be notified of their hiring decision, because you don't want to be left hanging. So maybe they'll say, oh, we'll let you know in 2 weeks, and we'll let you know via email. So that's really important. And the first impressions, get good lighting if it's webcam.
If it's virtual, right?
Get good lighting, because you want them to see you. Wear simple clothes. It's not a fashion show. Literally, a dress shirt is fine, a simple dress shirt. And then watch your background, like all of this. Clutter-free, clean. Don't have some weird poster from when you're in high school or whatever there. No socks all over the place. Very, very, disruption-free.
So people who are discouraged, who are getting no's, who aren't getting bites, or who are having interviews but not getting hired, and they might be discouraged, what kind of things are you saying to them to boost them back up and keep them going?
I tell them that you are not alone. I tell them that everybody has gone through a valley and everybody goes through a peak. Like, I've been there. Like, no one is perfect. There's strength in numbers, knowing that it's only a point in their life and this too shall pass. It's hard. And sometimes it just takes time, but they will get through it. And oftentimes the best practical way is to just, get that one job. And it could be that they have to be flexible. And it's about iteration. In software, what we do is tweak one thing and try it again. So what we'll do is this. I say, try a different industry. Try, tweaking your resume, apply for like a part-time job, go for freelance work, do something different. The definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different
result. Yeah.
You just can't do that.
When you're in the interview process, when is it appropriate to talk salary, and how important is it?
All right. So here's the deal with salary. I like talking salary very minimally. And this is why. You can do that when your resume is quantified. What I mean by that is this. Every resume should have a dollar sign. I don't care if you are a nun, a teacher, a whatever. You can prove that you made or saved money from your last employers. You can say that you had, saved, I don't know, like if you're a nun, you saved a bunch of electricity, by turning off all the lights. You can say that. And you can actually quantify it. You could prove it. Multiple hats, okay? James, how many roles do you play at the news station? Probably a gajillion roles, And so you can actually say that you did this. You did this, and then you saved the news station so many, salaries, right? And put that on your resume. That's how you quantify your resume. And then you put that number, that dollar sign, on your resume and explain how much money you made for the news station. Do you see what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
You boosted their ratings. You did all this. This is how people should do their resume.
Find a way to quantify it. Find a way to quantify your value. You have a value. You can have a value to a company. You can bring value to them. You need to try and put that out there.
Right, because everyone has a return on investment. If you had done that, if you do that, if you show your value, your return on investment, then you don't have to negotiate. Your resume does the talking for you.
New episodes of the Rebound Tampa Bay podcast drop every Wednesday morning on Apple, Stitcher, and Spotify. And you can watch a video version on the ABC Action News streaming news channel and on my Facebook page. That's James Tully TV.